Hello, hello, and welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm your host, Karen Yankovich, and there is something happening to women of a certain age, women in midlife, that nobody really prepares us for. And it's not because it's rare, it's because it's normalized, right? Somewhere around like 45, 50, 55, women who were once celebrated for being capable and reliable and smart and nurturing and productive start becoming less visible. And it's not overnight, right? It happens like subtly and quietly. And, you maybe you're not getting invited to certain conversations that you would have expected to get invited to, or people stop introducing you as the expert in the room, or your ideas are ignored until someone younger repeats them, right? You're starting to your experience is starting to be seen as nice instead of powerful. And, it's a thing and it's okay. But if you're not careful, you can start to disappear before your life and your career is even close to being over. And it's not because you're irrelevant, right? It's because we were conditioned to get quieter as we got older. So, meanwhile, men are expected to become more visible with age, right? They're more authoritative and more powerful and more expensive and more trusted, right? In men, gray hair is distinguished, right? And experience is wisdom and visibility is assumed. But in women, like gray hair is not distinguished. And it could be and it should be, right? But, you know, I color my hair. We get messaging about shrinking or being graceful or being humble or not taking up a lot of space and not talking about our accomplishments too much and not being too much, right? And listen, when women disappear at midlife, the system wins. The system wins because invisible women don't get the wealth. They don't get the influence. Invisible women don't get quoted in the media. Invisible women are not getting the board seats. Invisible women are not getting invited into powerful rooms, right? And invisible women certainly aren't building generational wealth. So today we're talking about visibility almost as survival, right? Not vanity, not ego, not personal branding, right? Survival. Listen, I firmly believe that humility becomes financially expensive after 50. Think about that for a second. Humility becomes financially expensive after 50. We're socialized to believe that visibility is arrogance or it equals arrogance, right? Especially like Gen X or boomer women, right? We're being rewarded for being agreeable or being supportive or making others comfortable and not self-promoting. And we can be some of those things, right? I'm not saying don't be agreeable, right? But don't do it at the expense of not self-promoting, right? Because what this modern economy is rewarding, this modern economy in the world we're living in right now, it's rewarding visibility. It's rewarding consistency of your messaging. It's rewarding positioning. It's rewarding authority. It's rewarding recognition. It's rewarding perceived expertise, not just hard work, right? And a lot of brilliant women that I speak to are still operating from the space of if I do great work, people will notice. If we build it, they will come. But that's just not how influence works anymore. It's just not how influence worked anymore. And that's really why you hear me talking about LinkedIn so much, because LinkedIn is not, I don't even think it's considerate social media. It's a search engine for opportunity, and you need to be there because people are searching LinkedIn every day for podcast guests, for board members, for consultants, for keynote speakers, for media experts, for strategic partners, right? And if you are invisible there, if your brilliance is not visible there, then you're opting out of rooms that you don't even know exist. You're not even knowing about the rooms, right? So you're opting out. You're literally choosing to not be able to be picked for these things. So silence is not neutrality anymore. It's absence. It's just complete absence from these opportunities. So I want you to think about this. Like if somebody Googles you today, what are they going to find out? Right? One of the reasons that I talk so much about PR as it relates to my LinkedIn strategies is because I want, when somebody throws my name in a Google search, I want there to be 10 or 20 or 50 pages that come up. And that is completely creatable, right? By looking for PR opportunities. The same happens for you. The same is true for you, right? Would they find evidence of your authority? Would they see, like, if you Google my name, like, you're going to see LinkedIn all over the place, right? So that's evidence of my authority. Is Do you feel like your Google results are showing that same thing? Again, completely creatable. Or maybe what they're going to find is that you help everybody else succeed, right? I no longer want you to continually and routinely minimize your accomplishments that men market aggressively, right? Women say things like, I was lucky. Oh, I got this. It was a team effort. I just kind of fell into it, right? Men say, I led us there. I scaled to this. I drove these results, right? And over time, that compounds into opportunity gaps. We must change this. We must change the fact that accomplished women are so underpositioned for the highest paying opportunities, right? And we can only start with yourself, right? You can only start with yourself. I mean, I think I start with myself, but then I do this so that I can help you. And that's that ripple effect that I think is so important. Okay. You're not underqualified. You're underpositioned. And that is huge. It's huge, right? So maybe it's not that you're too old to become known. Maybe it's just that you're underpositioned. Think about that. Think about that. And again, I want to tie this back into the reason that I focus so much on public relations, PR. This is where it matters so deeply, so significantly, because PR is earned credibility, borrowed authority, right? Media visibility tells the market, pay attention to this woman, right? And when you avoid PR because you're thinking like, who am I to pitch myself for this opportunity? Or I'm not famous enough, or I don't want attention, you're unintentionally reinforcing your own invisibility, right? Ugh, drives me crazy, drives me crazy. So think about this. Think about this. If you have extraordinary experience, right? But your LinkedIn headline says, I help people succeed, right? Not like tell me about you, but make it about me, but do it from a place of authority, right? What have you changed in the world, right? I don't want women to be hiding behind company brands instead of becoming known personally, right? We want you to be known, but like I have a company brand, but I also feel that it's important that people know that Karen Yankovich, the person behind the company, is what drives the strategy, what drives the leadership and the thought leadership and the opportunities, right? So they can work together, but I have to consciously create this, right? We have to consciously create this. Like, I almost want you to do this. Okay, I have an exercise for you. I have an exercise for you. I want you to think about like a huge opportunity that you had, that you landed, that you had, had the opportunity to do, like some experience that you had that was a big deal. If that experience was attached to a man's name, would it already be on stages? Would it already be being talked about in the media? Think about that. Think about that. Okay. And here's the deal. It doesn't mean you have to share everything, right? You don't have to walk around. Like sometimes I see these people's Instagram accounts and I saw one today and it was somebody that was kind of like in bed, or it was like a Mother's Day thing. And she was in bed and her kids were climbing in bed. And all I could think about was, where was the camera? Like, why? Where was the camera in all of this? Like, for us to have that angle, like that was carefully crafted and thought out, right? I'm not saying you need to do that. By all means, do it if that's what you're feeling, right? I'm not telling you not to do that, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to walk around with the camera all the time, right? You don't have to share everything, but hiding entirely has consequences. It does, right? So understand that you get to pick and choose how visible you want to be and what kind of visibility you want. You don't have to, there's no camera in your living room, right? At the same time, if you block it all out, then you're not giving yourself, you're financially shutting down opportunities. There is a big difference between protecting your peace, which I am fiercely protective of, right? Fiercely protective of. I have hang on, if you guys are watching this on video, I have like a jade peace sign on my desk at all time. I am fiercely protective of my peace, but that doesn't mean I have to abandon my visibility, right? So there's a difference between protecting your peace and abandoning your visibility. You don't owe the internet your trauma, right? You don't need to document your whole life. You don't need to dance on TikTok. But people can't advocate for expertise that they don't see. So you have to be sharing your expertise so that people can be talking about you, so that you get these opportunities. They come to you magnetically instead of you out there chasing them all the time. And I know, like, I can think of client for almost every one of these examples. Women disappear after divorce. They disappear after caregiving. I'm in the middle of the day today, in the middle of my morning, I got a call from my mom who's 89 that, she got a ride to the nail salon she lives in a independent living facility. She got a ride to the nail salon, but they couldn't pick her up. So I had to stop what I was doing and run to the nail salon and pick my mom up so she wasn't standing there for an hour and drive her back to her place, right? I can't disappear because these things are happening, right? I have to create a business. I'm lucky that I'm able to create a business that can work around these kinds of things. But many women disappear after that. They disappear after layoffs, right? They don't want to talk about it, so they just hide. They disappear after menopause. They disappear when they have an empty nest or grief or burnout or career pivots, right? And it's so easy to unconsciously shrink when we have these big things that are happening in our lives, right? And so often I hear women saying, well, I'm just resting and I'm taking a respite. And do that when you need that. But make sure it's what's not actually happening is that you're erasing yourself. Okay, please don't be erasing yourself. So let's just talk a little bit about a LinkedIn strategy layer here to this conversation that we're having. Small visibility actions like updating your LinkedIn headline, posting one thoughtful insight every week, right? Once a week, not 3 times a day, once a week. Commenting strategically, jumping into conversations, the number one way to get more visibility on LinkedIn. Saying yes to podcast interviews, looking for podcast interviews, adding media features to your profile, sharing your frameworks with your audience, right? Owning and claiming ownership of your intellectual property. Visibility does not require you to become an influencer, right? It requires you to become findable, right? And for something, right? Something that's very clear and that you have a lot of clarity around so that people know when to send people your way, right? I mean, listen, I'm going to repeat this because it's so important. Visibility is our economic power. Visibility is our economic power. Invisibility costs us speaking opportunities, and each speaking opportunity leads to so many other kinds of opportunities, clients, other speaking opportunities, right? Paid media sponsorships, podcast guesting, speaking opportunities could lead to so many things. It costs us consulting opportunities. It costs us media requests, partnerships. Invisibility can maybe even cost us investors, right? Networking access, board recruitment, premium pricing power, right? If you have a $50,000 offer that you're putting out to the world, nobody's going to just write you that check without checking you out first. What are they going to find when they check you out? Going back to what we talked about, what comes up in Google, right? That invisibility is costing you that premium pricing power, right? So if you're thinking I don't need visibility because I don't need attention. This is not about attention, right? Well, maybe it is. I mean, I'm going to rephrase that. Maybe it is about attention. Because this attention is creating that leverage, right? And that leverage creates freedom. So understand that visibility isn't about fame. Maybe that's a better way to say it. It's not about fame. It's about discoverability. Very, very important. It's about credibility. Very important. Proximity to opportunities, right? So I'm going to list a couple of visibility assets that I think women over 50 need. Okay. Number one, a positioned LinkedIn presence, right? Not a resume. Your LinkedIn profile is not a resume. A resume is all about who you used to be. Your LinkedIn profile needs to be positioning you for the person that you're becoming, the person that you're stepping into. Okay. It's a reputation platform, not a social media platform. You don't have to dance and tell jokes, right? The second thing you need to have, the second asset a woman over 50 needs to have is credibility markers, right? Have you been interviewed on podcasts? Have you been mentioned in the media? I would tell you that some of the biggest opportunities I've ever gotten that have been incoming opportunities said, oh yeah, I saw Karen interviewed in a magazine. It works. It works. But you got to go after these opportunities, right? You have to have a strategy for this. Speaking clips, testimonials, a framework that you can own, and thought leadership content that you create. Okay, so those are the credibility markers. Those are some credibility markers. There's lots of others, but those are some credibility markers. And this is the third visibility asset that you need. And this is important. And we talk about this a lot on this podcast, is a point of view, not generic inspiration. What do you become known for when you stop trying to sound universally liked, right? Like, what is your perspective? The women building wealth in this decade at this moment in time are not necessarily the smartest women. They're the women that the market can see and the market can understand, and the market, there's clarity around their messaging. They know exactly what you stand for. Okay. So understand this. I feel like this is a little bit of a Karen Yankovich, I don't know what the word is. A Karen Yankovich, like I feel like I'm sitting on a pulpit preaching to you guys here today, but I think it's important. I want you to know this. You are not behind. You are not washed up. You are not too late. You're carrying decades of wisdom, of pattern recognition, of resilience, of intelligence and lived experience. And the world desperately needs women who know things. The world desperately needs more wealthy women. The world desperately needs women that can use their money to affect change in this world. But this world does not reward hidden brilliance. This is what nobody's telling you. This is why I need to be saying this, why I feel called to say this. Nobody's telling us that you can't build influence when you're pretending not to want any. Right? You can't build wealth while making yourself smaller to protect other people's comfort, right? You can't create legacy while you're hiding your voice. I mean what I'm about to say with every fiber of my body. Midlife is not the beginning of irrelevance. It is the beginning of authority, of earned authority, right? If you choose it. So remember, this visibility is not about vanity. It's access, it's leverage, it's opportunity, it's power, it's wealth. And women with power create change. Women with power create wealth. Wealthy women change the world. Okay. So I just want you to ask yourself this week, where have I confused humility with hiding? Where have I confused humility with hiding? Take one visible action, right? Update the LinkedIn headline, pitch the podcast, post the opinion, right? Apply for the board seat, say yes to the interview, raise your rate, right? Own your expertise. Because every time a brilliant woman decides not to disappear, another woman gets permission to stay visible too. And that is the ripple effect that we have. And that's what we can be doing to make positive change in this crazy world we're currently living in. So you know that I'm here to support you with this wherever and however you want. If you're ready to become more visible without becoming someone you're not, that's exactly the kind of work we do around here. Your next chapter does not need to be quieter. We want it to be the most powerful chapter of your life. That's why we've created the Visibility Salon. Go to check it out at visibilitysalon.com. Very inexpensive way to get started with some of this work. No contract. Check us out for a couple of weeks. I think you're going to want to stay. But if you don't, no worries. No, nothing you got to worry about here. I only want people that are hell yes. I would love to be a part of your world, Karen. I would love to get some support from you. So check out the visibilitysalon.com and come on back here next week for another episode. Make sure that you've subscribed to this show. If you love this episode, please share it with your audience. Tag me, because when you share it with your audience and tag me, all the links for all of this will be in the show notes here. Then I can share that with my audience, and then I can get you visibility, right? And that's how you start to grow your visibility campaign, right? Which is what we want to do here. I would love to do that for you. Only way I can do it for you is if you share this episode, right? Share it with your audience so I can do that. Leave us a review or a rating if you want it, if you're feeling it, right? And do this not just for this show, but for all of your favorite podcasts, because this is how we affect change, and we need to affect change. I'll see you back here next week.